I was recently asked by a commenter on the channel that's got a Ford Explorer 2020 and above. He said, man, this thing's making noises and stuff like that. It's making like relay clicks and actuators and stuff going on. And if you guys can remember back for as far as you've been on this channel, the people that have been on here for a long time, back in 2020, I did a video with one of the very first Explorers that showed up at the dealerships in our area. The new body style Explorer came in. It was a police-owned vehicle. It literally had 30 miles on it. And it already had an issue with the braking system. And as I was walking out to the parking lot, I was recording, giving you guys the introduction of like the view of the vehicle and stuff like that. It was all blacked out. It was like going to be either a detective vehicle or it was going to be one that hasn't been retrofitted yet. And as I was walking up to the vehicle, again, the reason that it was brought in is because they said when they were actually taking it on a test drive, after receiving it from the transport truck, there was like this thumping sensation, real faint, with the brakes whenever you would hit the brakes. You can feel it in the pedal, but not the steering wheel, and it only had 30 miles on it. Mind you, a lot of these vehicles are tested very hard before they're put on a truck and sent to the customer, especially if it's like a police fleet vehicle or something like that. So I get out there to the vehicle, and as I'm walking up to it, I get about 10 feet away, and I hear, and then a loud click engagement like an actuator. And there was like all these freaking clicks and actuator sounds and stuff, and I was like, oh crap, there's something in the vehicle, there's something moving around inside there. And I was like, I'm getting away from this. So I went and put like welding gloves on, went out there with a coworker, and it just caught me by surprise. And I went to go pop the hood, and when I popped the hood, there was nothing there. I'm like tiptoeing in there trying to look inside the hood like, what am I gonna see? And I get to the area where the loudest sound is coming from, and it's right by the firewall, about halfway down under a bunch of plastic. There's a electronic brake booster simulator. It's a electric over hydraulic simulator. So in the Explorers from 2020 and above, they don't actually use a brake booster. They use an electronic booster simulator. So as you're pushing the pedal, it helps simulate like a regular vehicle braking, and it gives you that natural feel that you would have had to a regular vehicle with like a vacuum booster system and like a master assembly that you'd normally find in a traditional vehicle. Well, the newer 2020 and above Explorers do not do that. They actually make it a little bit of an actuation sound too when you push the pedal. And customers have complained about it. Is that normal when I push the brake pedal to go? Yes, absolutely normal. 1000%. That's how they built them. It's an electronic system that needs to do self-checks and actuations and stuff like that. You may hear it like every 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes or something like that. It may be up to 30 minutes, but it runs a self-check periodically. And you can actually shut the vehicle off and walk away, stand outside the vehicle. It might be a little bit after you shut it off, but like 20, 30 minutes later, all of a sudden you'll hear actuation and stuff turning on. That's what this vehicle does. It does periodic self-checks. So this is one of the reasons why the batteries drain down faster when you guys are away from the vehicle. That's why it's important to have the Ford Pass app and stuff hooked up so you can electronically or remotely start the vehicle from afar away when you're not going to be there, so you can keep that battery healthy. And let's just say you're going on vacation for 2 weeks. That battery's probably not going to last for 2 weeks. It may, but I doubt it. Maybe a week at most. And you come back and you're like, what the heck? Battery's dead. And then when you jump it off, you find out that it says it's in battery saver mode. That's because this thing has been running self-checks the entire time that it's been sitting there stagnant. And it does it every night when you shut it off. That you didn't remote start it with the Ford Pass app to keep that battery juice, every couple days recharged. Now you've got specific features about the vehicle that are shut off. Specific things aren't working, like passive entry. Maybe your auto start stop is not working now. Maybe your hands-free foot swipe at the rear tailgate's not opening the trunk anymore. Certain features that will shut down that's not necessary as the vehicle's like dying, as the battery's dying, to try to save as much of the battery as possible to continue doing its self-checks and things like that. So when you get back to the vehicle, you get it started finally, you're going to have to go through a battery monitor reset procedure. In some vehicles it works, some vehicles it doesn't. But the majority of newer Fords that have a battery monitor reset, look at the negative cable on the battery and you're going to see there's like a little sensor post off to the side and it's plugged in. That's a battery monitor sensor. Normally, just key on or push button start on until everything on the dash turns on. Do not start the vehicle. Flash the brights 5 times and then hit the brake pedal 3 times. So brights, 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 brake pedal, brake pedal, brake pedal. You might need to speed it up or slow it down, and then eventually, like 10-15 seconds later, all of a sudden you'll see a battery light flashing on the dash. It'll flash, 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 something like that. And then it'll shut off. Some people say they don't even see the battery flash, but once they key back off and turn back on, all of a sudden the auto start stop symbol that was grayed out before, indicating that it's not working, now it's green, like it's working. Or the passive entry, when they used to put their hand in the handle or push the button on in the handle or just touch the pad on the outside, now all of a sudden that's working. Or their keypad feature is not working, or their passive entry, like with their swipe, their foot under the tailgate's working. So you'll need to go through a battery monitor reset, and if you still can't figure out how to reset the battery monitor that way, you can get the battery charged up real nice and full with a battery tender. Get it charged up real good. Shut the vehicle off, close the doors, lock everything, and let it sit for at least 8 hours. And it's supposed to reset itself once the battery's at full capacity. Now, if you're 4 or 5 years later and you're expecting to get the same outcome, that ain't going to work. Because that system inside that vehicle stores the fact that it has battery time and health. So if that battery's been in the vehicle for 4 or 5 years, chances are your system, even though it's a good battery, is saying, I still want a replacement battery. I still need to have this battery monitor reset done. Locking the doors and then waiting 8 hours ain't going to happen. It's not going to reset it. You're going to have to actually reset it like manually yourself with a computer, or doing the flashes of the brake lights and pushes of the pedal, or you're just going to have to put a new battery in it and reset it, or put a new battery in it, lock the doors, and let it sit for at least 8 hours. So there's some caveats to this. It's not just clean cut and dry like that. This is why your 2020 Explorer and above, and some of the F-150s and stuff too, go into battery saver mode. They do self-checks when the vehicle's off, especially the Explorers. And they're very audible and very loud, very annoying. Customers complain about the sounds that these Explorers make, but this is just how it is, and Ford's not going to change it. Thanks for watching. I appreciate y'all. Be blessed. Again, I don't make the system. I just educate on it. Have a great day.